So I am playing Dead Rising
Oh, Frank
Deluxe
is thick. Holy
Remaster.
shit.
Yeah, look, he's just doing some weights with one arm.
That guy's as wide as I am tall.
100%. So this remaster, okay, for fans who played the original, no doubt. Hardcore fans. Good friend Jeff played this game, loved it.
Very hardcore fan.
Loved the original. I never played the original. I've never played Dead Rising. And it's because it's one of those franchises that lived on the Xbox. I think it was a 360. I didn't own an Xbox 360, so I could never play it. Always curious about these games, so huzzah, I can finally see why it is such a beloved franchise. And let me tell you, I was not prepared for this franchise. Okay? I knew, I mean, having seen gameplay of, of the games through the ages of all the weapons you can use, I always knew tonally it was wild, like wacky, and, realism is not at the forefront of these developers' minds when they made this game. I did not expect it to be as wacky as it is, though, in the sense that there are things to do, there are bosses to fight, and they're just insane cutscenes that happen. I mean, you're going to see one now on the footage I've got here, but it's good fun. Like I'm having an absolute blast. And if you don't know what Dead Rising is, so it is an action zombie game, I guess. I don't know how else you would describe it. There's very little survival horror going on here. It's really just the premise is that you are a journalist called Frank West who enters a small town in Colorado, and you land on a mall to investigate this, mysterious zombie outbreak. While you're there, though, you're going to take pictures, help survivors, and all sorts of zombie trope things, whatever. And it's silly because the game is set in a mall, right? And you've got your base of operations, I guess, is like the security safe room, whatever. And you need to go out and, do, for lack of a better description, quests, follow leads or save people that you hear about. You've got one of the side characters has eyes on the monitors or the camera system of the mall and will tell you like, oh, I saw a lady in this jewelry store. Go investigate. And that's quite a cool way for you to get quests, I guess, or missions. And just doing them is hilarious. But I think what's so interesting about this game is that there's a persistent time mechanic where time passes. You can't really you can pause, but you can't really pause. You need to do things.
Yes.
Like for example, you're going to be somewhere at 2:00, whatever, and maybe it's on the other side of the mall. So you've got a plan to get there by a certain time or leave early or whatever. But what's interesting is that it also adds this interesting, somewhat, I guess, stressful for you. I know Mick said he's not a fan of this game because, the fact that time is real, I use the term real, the fact that time passes in real time and you can miss saving a survivor or something can be quite stressful. But it adds this interesting dynamic to the game where it's like, okay, I've got 4 markers on the map and I know the one's going to expire in an hour. But then there's another one that expires in an hour as well. It's on the other side of the mall. Like, which one do I go to first? Like, it's not that extreme, but it does make you think, shit, like, how do I plan to do what I want to do?
Yes.
But
is there like a daily thing you need to do? Like,
no,
because I assume days pass, right?
So my understanding, again, I'm new to this franchise, and the basic, the core game, like I assume you unlock others or there are different modes, whatever. But the one you play first is called 72 hours, so it's 3 days, okay. And from my understanding, 1 day is equivalent to like 2.5 hours of gameplay of real time. Sorry.
Okay.
So yeah, essentially that means like the core campaign is 6 to 8 hours, I guess. And what's interesting is that I think it is built on replayability, because I've missed survivors, I've lost survivors doing, like as a dumb example, I walked into like a sports store and there were 2 survivors, like a man and a woman, and they were partners, and the man was injured, like terribly injured, and the woman is like, oh my God, he's going to die. And Frank's like, I can help you guys, whatever. And the man's like, no, just leave me. She's not going to go with you to the safe room unless I'm out the picture. Like she just won't leave me here. So like, bring me a gun.
Okay.
So I brought him a gun and he shot himself.
Okay.
And she refused to leave. So I was like, okay, like clearly I was supposed to do something else that I have to figure out, like maybe there's something else I can give him. So that's something to keep in mind for like another playthrough. This game is built around that. I mean, another good example is you walk into a bookstore and there's a pair of Japanese tourists that don't speak English. So it's like, how do I get these people to come with me? And you look around the bookstore like, oh, there's a book on basic Japanese translation. You have to pick up that item before you can talk to them. And the game's structured in this way that there are a lot of survivors in certain places. Some of them are pretty obvious, like you just talk to them, hey, I've got a safe room, follow me. But there are others where they're like almost mini puzzles of like, well, how do I convince this person to come with me? And that's really cool.
So is the ultimate goal saving people?
No, so I think the benefit to saving people is that you get experience. So there's like a leveling system that happens. And it's funny because this is a product of its time where you can't like spec your character. Okay, you just level up and you get given. It's like, okay, now you've got more health. Okay, you've unlocked this ability, whatever. But the incentive to save people is to, the incentive to save random people is to get experience, from what I understand. But in terms of core story, you're there trying to figure out what happened. Why has the zombie outbreak occurred? And, there's obviously people, well, obviously I say this, but there are people at this mall that know what's going on. And you're trying to figure out, well, no, was it a government thing? Like, was an experiment gone wrong? And you save people or talk to people or do missions trying to, that lead you to this answer, I presume. And I think on the flip side is like, if you don't follow those missions, like you won't figure out what happened, and then you quote unquote fail the game. I guess you just leave after 3 days, and that's that. But it's
so there is like a fail state, is what I mean.
I imagine there is, because even the main quest, it'll say like, okay, this mission will start at 2 p.m. tomorrow afternoon or whatever. And it's like, I wonder what happens if I miss that. Like, do I just fail? Like, what happens to the actual story? I haven't tried that yet, but it is quite cool because then as I'm learning the more and stuff, I'm already thinking like, well, I'll do another playthrough and now know how to get to this person faster, or maybe I'll tackle it in a different order or whatever. So yeah.
Okay.
You've played Dead, right? Have you played the second one?
So yeah, that's what I'm trying to like compare in my head, is like, I've never played the first one, but I played the second one. And in that one, like the time mechanic was still a big thing.
Yeah.
But you had to, so the core conceit in the second one is I can't remember, you are this guy and there's a girl that you're trying to keep alive. And I can't remember if she's like your daughter or something like that. But essentially she's been like bitten, and every day you have to give her like a dose of this antidote to like keep her at bay from turning.
Okay.
So you have a day to like muck around in and complete objectives, but you always have to keep in mind that you need to be back at the safe house at a particular time with an antidote. Like you need to find one every single day. And sometimes that means you have to fight a boss that day or complete a certain like string of missions that day to get one as a reward or find one. So there was always this thing of like, if you don't complete this day, you get a little cutscene of her like turning into a zombie and you have to restart that day. Yeah. So this sounds like very different in that you've got 3 days, and at the end of the 3 days you leave. So I was like, is there a fail state? Is there like, have you wasted the 3 days? But it sounds like you just, at the end of the 3 days, you've done what you've done, and then you go back in and see if you can do more.
I don't know.
By what I understand,
I haven't played far enough to see that.
Okay.
But it's an interesting structure, because I mean, this game came out in, I think is it 2004? Is it that long ago? Or 2007?
I will quickly check for you.
Maybe it's 2007. It's a very, like, look, the game
2006.
2000. Okay, I was kind of close.
That means it's 18 years old this year.
Fuck, that is.
Yeah. Wild. It can drink.
So there are, when I was chatting to Jeff, because he said there's a lot of quality of life things, and I was like what? And then when he listed them out, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. So for example, the fact that there's a quest marker that you can see on the map there, like that didn't exist before, and I can't imagine having to. I suppose it would be more immersive, but having to pull open my map every few seconds to figure out where the hell I'm going would be quite annoying. There's a few things like that have been improved, 100%, but then there are still things in this game that are very dated. Like he says, the AI has been improved, and I'm sure it has, but there are still times when the AI is just like horrific. But I think that the most frustrating thing, but again, this is just a meeting, I'm still wrapping my head around the game, is that the zombies just respawn.
Yes.
Which is fine. Like, I understand for gameplay purposes, like it wouldn't make sense for you to clear one part of the mall, then it's always clear to go through. Like, I guess it would make it boring. But I'm talking like, I walk into a room, I clear the zombies, and I go, oh shit, like the survivor that was with me wasn't close enough. I left them outside. I have to go out to get them, come back into the room, leave the room for a second, come back in, those zombies have respawned. I'm like, I've just cleared this. And then like the path to the safe room, you always have to go up an elevator and or down this elevator, and then it's always full of zombies every time. It's like it's weird because it's funny because the game's not, it's like immersive but not at all immersive. So it's like, you'd think, I thought like, oh shit, you got to probably clear the elevator before you can go down it. You don't. You just, as long as you can get that button and push it, it'll trigger the load screen and you go up or down the elevator. So just like weird data things like that. But I suppose it adds to the charm of the game. It's designed that way, and it's not meant to be serious. Like, you've watched the footage, you've seen me fight a dude in a grocery store. Now I'm in I guess like a hardware store fighting like another random psychopath.
I mean, I just watched Frank West raw dog a couple of baguettes to
100%
replenish his health. It's great. That's how I eat baguettes as well.
Same.
Yeah.
Just scoff them and that's that.
No toppings, no nothing. Just fucking whole baguette in my mouth.
Oh my gosh, just smash it. I mean, but look, I don't mean to be hard on this game. I'm actually really, really enjoying it. It's as silly as it is, and as much jank as it has, as wide as these people are with their shoulders, I'm there having a good time. And you learn the language of the game. You because I think all these years, me seeing footage, going like, oh man, the idea of having to survive zombies in a mall, like, whoa, what a premise! It must be so difficult. You learn like you can just run past so many zombies, and by design, I think that is the like a balancing thing where the odd one will reach out and grab you, but otherwise you can just run past most of them. And I didn't even touch on this, because you're in a mall. There are so many different stores, there are so many different items, and you can pick up not every one of them, but you can pick up a lot of different things to dispatch these zombies. So.
Because this is predominantly like a melee game. Like, I know
it's a melee game. Yeah,
you've got a gun, but it's like make do with all the weird and wacky shit you have around you to fight. Essentially,
can I tell you? So I'm sure there will be other weapons outside of pistols. I mean, the one boss I fought had a shotgun, but a pistol is like not at all effective in this game at all. It's way better to pick up a bench to hit zombies, a bowling ball, a can of paint, as opposed to using a weapon. So like, by design, I think that's intentional.
Yes, 100%.
And it is very satisfying. Just running around. Even look, I don't know what the trade-off is for not doing the quests or missions. Like, maybe it's a fail state. Maybe you just leave after 3 days and that's that. But if you want to come in and just cause havoc in this game and just level up doing other random shits, like, it's a really big playground. The smallest,
it's huge. Like a sandbox of sorts that you can just.
What is the biggest mall in South Africa at the moment?
I think it's still Gateway.
Is it I'm sure this place is like a million times bigger than Gateway.
I would not be surprised.
It's humongous. There's just so many different areas. But I mean, it has to be, right? It's a game as well.
Yeah.
But
I think that's ultimately where the series started like straying, because like the second one was still in a mall of sorts. It was more like if I'm not mistaken, like a play on Vegas. So it was a lot of like malls and interconnected casinos.
Yeah.
But then the third one was where it was like, oh, you're like in a wasteland and you're moving between hubs, and
yeah.
it was like, oh, this is very different. Like it's not the same vibe at all.
Wasn't there Dead Rising 4 as well?
That's when they brought Frank West back, but like I don't actually know how that one worked. I never played that, so yeah. But I know three had like cool ideas in terms of because I don't think there's weapon crafting in this one.
No. You just pick up weapons.
That was something that added in 2, was like you could combine weapons and they would make other weapons, and there was recipes and stuff. And 3 leaned very hard into that, so there was like ridiculous weapon combinations you could have. I recall one was like you basically built an equivalent to Iron Man's chest laser beam thing. Super fun, but it lost the charm of its setting and its wackiness for a more grounded environment and take. And I think that like goes against what makes this game fun, like you're describing.
It's meant to
ridiculous
be
by nature. Yeah.
It's funny, the one comparison that came to mind in my head is like, imagine it is a Yakuza game with like Resident Evil, where
100%.
It's like aesthetically, there's zombies and there's weapons, whatever, but it's so silly. Like a lot of the cutscenes, I've not played Yakuza, but I mean I know like there are wacky sides. It's a super serious gangster game, but it's also not. You know what I mean? It reminds me so much of that.
You've just described exactly why Jeff loves this game. Like it combines the two things he really enjoys.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. It's got the very loose beat 'em up style of combat as a Yakuza, and doesn't take itself too seriously. But then it's got the trappings of a B-grade horror movie like a Resident Evil. And let's be honest, like Resident Evil's at its best when it's fully aware that it is a B-grade horror movie. When it tries to be too serious, that's where it's like a bit falling off the wagon. It looks cool. I'm very keen to give it a go because, like you, I never played the first one. But I remember enjoying the second one a bunch, and it seems that this one retains the stuff that it needed to keep it interesting and campy, but fixes, like you said, the quality of life things that today would be very frustrating to deal with. Yeah, very subtractive from the experience as opposed to being like, additive to the vibe.
Yeah.
So that's cool. And I mean, I think it's doing almost a disservice to this game to call it a remaster. I know it's in the name, but like this is a remake. Like it's in a new engine. It's in the RE engine. They made this from the ground up. It is, I would say, on par with like a Resident Evil remake. Just maybe not as ambitious in changing the gameplay.
Maybe not as big a gameplay change, but visually and quality of life, it
looks good. It retain. I think I look at it, I'm like, yes, this is definitely a 360 game, but also it looks
shiny,
way better than a 360 game could ever look. So I think it's hard to strike that balance. So it's cool that they nailed that.